So my first question would be like, what inspired you to become a film critic?
So the shortest answer would be I don't know. Uh, I always like to write. I like to read and I like to write. My whole of education and training is in English literature. I'm from Calcutta. I did my graduation and masters in English. But I think also what happened was that I was very inherently always interested in films. So I would read a lot, and I would also imagine them very graphically, like you watch a film. And also, I've grown up in a joint family, so there are always lots of people. And I remember my uncle's, like a particular uncle I have, like he was very interested in films. Okay, so whenever we would watch something, he would come to my room and and we would watch TV, and he would constantly give me backstories of every Firoz Khan song that was shot, which absolutely does not belong to my generation. These are the actors we don't watch, right? But it was his generation. And I think somewhere the idea of characters on screen being people in real life and having a backstory got ingrained in my mind. So later on, I realized that whenever I was studying literature and I was doing my term papers, which you have to do, I inherently ended up tying them to films, right? Like, so when I remember in my masters, I had a partition course. uh, and you could like, basically what happens is you take 2 3 texts and then you write about it. And I did Khamosh Pani and partition, and then I did some on Ritik Ghotok. So I think somewhere it was just like, and then it so happened that I chose a career of writing. And writing on films is what I enjoy the most. So yeah, that no formal training.
Can you tell me in detail how you review a film?
uh, See, it's very like, it's a little instinctive. I feel like when you watch a film, uh, when you know that you are reviewing it, also now I watch a film as if I'm reviewing it, even though I'm watching it for leisure. I think what happens is you inherently start noticing, okay, this is not adding up. So I don't have a process as such. It's just that my phone is, when I'm watching a film, on a very dark mode, I keep my phone on notes, where I try keep making notes. But inherently the best films or the worst films, there are two kinds, is when I don't take notes, right? When you completely forget to take notes is either the best case scenario or the worst case scenario. And when you're so taken in by the film, so then when you come back, um, you start, like, at least I start in my first introduction, which takes me the longest to write. Like, intro is what I really struggle with, I think, also because you are trying to figure out what you thought of the film, in the sense that I can, after watching a film, you can have a knee-jerk reaction of liking or disliking it, but your review cannot be that. Your review has to be an exposition of why you liked it and why you disliked it, right? So that is where my intro is where I try to figure out why that scene did not work for me, or why that character arc did not work for me, or sometimes why it worked for me so much that I do not look at the things which did not. Like, I'll tell you, recently, like, Merry Christmas released, Sri Ram Raghavan's, and I watched it twice. It's like I'm still living in, like, I'm still in the film. I keep listening to the songs, and logically, there are 2 3 things which I can argue, and if I hadn't liked the film, I could have argued and said this is not adding up. But I liked it so much that I ended up defending everything.
Okay, so that
you know that happens a lot, like, and that's when that's your true litmus test of liking or disliking a film, when you can defend it, when you have your own backstory to defend it. Like, for Merry Christmas only, both Vijay Sethupathi and Katrina Kaif, the characters, basically, like, Sethupathi obviously struggles a little in Hindi, right? So the second time when I watched it with subtitles of English, which really helped me. It's like some jokes landed more. I liked it. I liked the film more. And I was talking to a friend, and I'm like, and the friend was like, but the Hindi is not working for me. Like, both of them seem like they are struggling with the language that they're communicating in. But in any other film, if I hadn't liked it, I would have been like, exactly, that is where my problem lies. But since I liked it so much, I was like, but people who fall in love, they have their own language. Like, if you meet someone who doesn't share the same language as you, in a foreign country, then you will figure out a way to communicate with that person. And for me, Merry Christmas was that. I mean, it's a stretch. What I'm trying to say is, when you like something, even as a critic, more so as a critic, you really go out of your way to see the many ways you can tie it up.
What's your favorite film of all time? Like you can
Yeah,
list it out. 100, 200, doesn't matter.
I don't know. I don't know. This. I mean, see, what happens is that I keep going back to certain films according to certain mood, I think, right? But I think the one film which really affected me a lot, which I also watched when I was your age, uh, like people used to do that to me, so I like doing it to you. Like when I was your age, uh, so when I was in college, and I remember I'd watched Ritik Ghatuk's Meghe Dhaka Tara, and the film just affected me in a very visceral way because at that time I remember um, I was not very attuned to the nuances of even partition, to so as to say, because we studied it later. That's when I also got the aftermath, the extent of the aftermath of the incident and everything. But I watched it long before I studied partition, and the film really affected me in a very visceral, primal way. So I always like I keep thinking back to it, and there are many films I've watched after that which I really liked. But I think there's one film which keeps lingering in your mind, right? There are these scenes which keep coming back to you. So if you have to say, I don't know if this is my favorite film or not, but it had a very enduring effect on me.
Like if you want to recommend few films, like what will it be?
I mean, it depends on the genre, right? See, this is when I go blank. Like I
No
have
problem.
like I think, what do I, because the thing is, when you write on films for a living, what happens is that every Thursday or Friday, your friends or relatives, they call you up and you're like, what should we watch, and should we watch this, and then you become like a person saying, no, 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 don't, avoid this. I do this very much with my relatives and friends, but if something comes up, I'll tell you. Right now I'm a little blank.
Okay. Any filmmakers like you really like?
In Hindi,
First, let's talk about Hindi, then we'll talk about version.
okay, in Hindi language, I like Shujit Sarkar a lot. It is not my Bengali bias talking.
Oh,
I really feel he is one of the most interesting voices we have. No two films by him are similar.
his
There is
favorite
not
film?
his favorite. See, it's very
October.
personal.
Did you like October? I love October because.
Yes, so that's what, like, logically, if I say the film which really really moved me is October. I really like Saddaruddham also, but there's something about Piku. I think he just got it right. It seemed like he planted a camera inside my house and saw how I interact with my father. Like there are films which you see, and there are films which see you. And Piku is when, like, every time I watch Piku, and I keep watching it a lot. Like I keep watching it in bits and pieces. And the funny thing is, there are days where you side with the parent, and there are days you side with Deepika, like Deepika's character, the daughter. And I haven't seen a fuller representation of a father-daughter relationship. I mean, with or just like a parent, the fact that they can be so selfish and selfless at the same time. You don't see it that often. So yeah, I think Pico is something I keep watching. But October, I remember being extremely moved by October. Like it just like really broke me. There are films which break you, and I think October was one of them. Like Pico, I was not crying throughout, but I remember October second half, I really had like hazy vision because my eyes were like all constantly like watered. So yeah, but even Sardar Udham is right. That's what I'm saying. Like I think he's so interesting because no two films by him, they are similar. You cannot point out and say this is a Shujit Sarkar film because he doesn't have that. There's a lot of versatility I feel in his in his filmmaking, which really attracts me as a viewer. Uh, Someone else, like I really liked. I mean, this is becoming a little Bengali bias, but I really like Dibakar also. You know, I feel like he hasn't made anything for a while. I mean, if we consider that Pinky Farrar, I mean, which obviously was delayed for a while. But even his short film in Ghost Stories, Netflix's Ghost Stories, was so good. And like, just to talk about the current political climate through complete subversion and metaphors, and still being so potent, like losing nothing in translation. I think Dibakar, also Zoya Akhtar, I really like. I'm not a big fan of Archie's, but I'm a fan of everything she has made before. Like Luck by Chance, I feel like it's one of the finest debuts in recent times by a filmmaker in Hindi language. Like, every time I watch it, like, the opening credits, if you see, or just the way the film, you don't know who is the protagonist, and I think that was one of the most compelling dissection of fame, of ambition, of self-respect, so many things. Also, of a city like Bombay, which is so cruel, if it,
For
so
actors.
yeah, for anyone, I think, if you come with ambition, and you feel like, this is a city where things can happen, this is a city where things can happen, but it will also break you in the process. So yeah, so I think, on top of my head, I think these would be the three filmmakers. I'm pretty sure after this conversation I'd be like, oh shit, there was this guy, I forgot.
And world cinema?
World cinema, recently, if I say, um so I like Celine Sciamma a lot. I feel like yesterday only, for some reason, I was just looking her up, because I think I was looking for some interview where she said something, and I realized that she made Petit Mama and, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And Petit Mama is like, it's such a like, have you watched it?
No, Patino. I have seen
You
Portrait
have.
of a Lady One.
Portrait of a Lady you have watched. So Petit Mama is like, it's a very short film. Like, I think it's like 1 hour 30 minutes, 20 minutes. It's like if it was a novel, it would have been a novella, but it is just so impactful and so beautiful, and just such great filmmaking. Like, I really, really like her. And I'm trying to remember what I've watched.
Joyland director, what was his name?
Yeah, Saim Sadiq, I really like, but he's only made this film. So I'll tell you what I enjoyed recently. I think that would probably cover. So Joyland, yes, like, it's very good. It's heartbreaking. It's just like,
It's
it's
my
just
favorite film of all time. Like,
yeah. It's really just heartbreaking, and just that, every scene, like, I remember when I started watching Joyland, because obviously there was so much conversation about the film, because obviously there was like this trans woman who was this actor in the film, and but the funny part, or the most intriguing part about Joyland, is that, whenever you have a premise like this, where obviously a man is in love with someone else, like a trans woman, and you know that the whole film would be about their love getting validated, right? But I think what is so fascinating about Joyland is that, it just basically focused on identities, and not belonging. The fact that his wife became the protagonist by the end, the fact that she is everything which his lover wanted to be, because she was a woman, and this his lover wanted to undergo an operation and wanted to belong. And Saim basically completely subverts it and shows that, look here, she used to belong, and yet she killed herself, because that's how terrible even belonging can be, for minority, or for women, actually. Because even if you see Heather's character, he was constantly teased and taunted by, and he was a man, right? Like, so I think I found that fascinating, the way he dealt with identities, and the how it's a losing battle, no matter which side you are on. uh, then what I liked more recently is, there's this film called, I mean, I talk about it all the time. It's a film called Close, by Lucas Dhon.
okay, okay, the two child one.
Two kids, yeah, it's just beautiful. It's just great. It's just, I mean, I watched it at Kerala, I remember. And like, like, as I was saying, that, you don't take notes, you don't think, it takes you in, and you have completely surrendered to the film, and to what it's wanting to say. And the just how male friendship was depicted, how two young kids who are men, and they were so close, and then their friends start teasing them. So one basically just starts going away, like starts neglecting the other one, because you are scared. When you are young, you're scared of everything becomes too much, right? And like the way Lucas just it's just beautiful, it's great. Also, what I like last year was Shaunak Sen's All That Breathes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have watched it. Everyone has talked about it. So I remember watching it. So I was covering Sundance in 2022 or three. I think that's why it premiered. So before the film became the monster that it did in a good way. I remember watching it at Sundance, and there are some films you watch and you know that this will snowball into something great. So I think Shaunak's All That Breathes was one of them. Like when I was watching it, you don't see nonfiction being depicted like that. You know, just using almost like a fictional language to depict nonfiction. Uh, the things that it was saying, it was very political, even though it was not at the forefront.
Yes, it
It
was
it,
in
it it
background.
it it was in the background, but how the background leaks into the foreground. So yeah, on the top of my head, these are the films I really enjoyed, but I'm sure there are plenty I can't remember, but if I do, I'll tell you.
Is 2023 been a good year for movies?
No, no, it has been a very good year for streaming. If I'm talking about Hindi language, I feel there was great work being done on streaming platforms. Long form storytelling really came of age. I think there was Trial by Fire, there was Koda, there was Dahar. Uh, so there were great work. There was School of Lies. So there was great work being done on streaming, but not so much in the feature film thing. Like, I think the good ones, see, there was obviously, by the time 2023 began, and I think in January, with Pathan coming and becoming such a hit, and I love Pathan, I feel it also set the precedent of these tentpole films working, right? Because people were not watching films in the theater last year. So I think with Pathan, what happened was that probably the producers and the filmmakers realized that people are coming in for the experience. So there were a lot of big tentpole films which happened, and most of them did very well. So commercially, it was a great year. But for me, I think the smaller films worked a lot more. Like 12th Fail worked so much. It really worked for me. Three of us, Avinash, Arun's, and they came absolutely at the end of the year. It came on streaming, because I remember it released when Mami was going on in Bombay. So anyway, and it was a very small release. So anyway, people were like all tied up with Mami. Also, 12th Fail, I think, came out at that time. Yeah, 12th Fail definitely came out during Mami, I remember. And I remember some people talking about it, and I hadn't watched it, that what a film and all that. And it seemed interesting, because you have a festival going on and people are watching something which is in the theater. So the smaller films worked for me a lot, actually. Like 12 Fail, Three of Us. Yeah.
Bukhar, have you seen Bukhar?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, see, yeah, exactly, that also. Yes, yeah, I watched it at movie, actually. And when
And
I was trying.
Stolen by Karan Tejpal.
Which one?
Stolen. Abhishek Banerjee is the main lead.
No, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched Stolen. I watched Pokhar and Goldfish. Yes, yeah, I remember. So these really worked for me. Like, among big tentpole films, I think Rocky Rani I enjoyed a lot. I really enjoyed. Watched it twice. Really had fun. I think it just did what it wanted to do. Jawan, Pathan both worked for me. Like, it really had fun. But if you talk about films which are more like, I think Jawan was pretty political in its way, but if you talk about filmmaking and pushing the boundaries of filmmaking, I feel it was happening in the streaming for sure. Like, Trial by Fire is fascinating, like, great show, almost impeccable how good the show is. And Koda on Netflix. Then Dahar, I really really like Dahar. I mean, it's very surprising that I didn't see A lot of people talking about it by the end of the year. But for me, the show was one of the better written shows out there. It's also Zoya Akhtar, like an Tiger Baby production. Also, um, just thought of one show and completely forgot. School of Lies and something else. Wait, if I remember, I'll tell you.
Archie's.
Yeah, so I didn't mind it. Okay, the thing is that I didn't mind it as much.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. No, no, I get it, and I didn't mind it as much because I feel like it was a smart film in the sense that your obvious criticism against the film, what can it be? That these kids cannot speak Hindi properly, right? But then Zoya is showing that it's an Anglo-Indian community. You're getting, so I feel it was a smart film in the way that she had, and she's a smart filmmaker, so she had posited it in a way where a lot of the criticism will not. I mean, you can argue for it, is what I'm saying. I can have a problem, but I can also argue. So a lot of like, and I thought it was not a terrible film. I thought it was an okay. I will not watch it again. That's the problem. I think my whole problem with Archie's is that if I'm watching such young people dancing and having such a great time, it should make me miss my youth, which Archie's did not do. I think my whole criticism can be distilled down to this: that it didn't make me want to belong to this world. Because musicals tend to do that, right? So I think, yeah, that. Otherwise, I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't mind Suhana Khan at all. I thought she was pretty good, and
Another
yeah,
film I want to talk about is Anime.
is Animal. What do we want to talk about?
Is it a good film?
I mean, I can speak for myself. I didn't like it. If it's a good film, bad film, I didn't like it. I mean, I it's part of my job. I had to watch it, and I don't thousand words saying why I didn't like it. So I didn't like it, and I don't agree with the politics of the filmmaker, with what he portrays, his gender politics. It's not something I identify with. But also, I feel like there are like a lot of like it's regressive and sexist, and you get that, right? We know that. So I think what happened after Kabir Singh was that when I was going to watch Animal, I gave myself a pep talk, and I was like, okay, so this is what we will see. So try to see the film. Try to see if the film holds up. If I try to, if I'm making peace with the rest, like if I'm making peace with the fact that Ranveer will obviously mistreat the Ranveer's character will obviously mistreat the female character. I'm taking that as granted because I know this is the filmmaker and this is his world. Will the rest hold up? So the thing with Animal is the rest also did not hold up for me. It did not work for me on multiple levels, and I'm not sitting here and saying that because he was sexist. I mean, now it's common information, and the fact that he wears it on his sleeve makes it like little redundant to talk about it. He doesn't see anything wrong with it, which okay, fine. I mean, your film, your vision, do whatever. But I feel even with that, it didn't work for me. Like I tried, not to like it, but I tried to see, what works. Because also, I think as a critic or as a writer, writing is a very lonely job. So you watch a film, you come back and you write your opinion, good, bad, whatever you felt about it, and then it's very interesting to see how the discourse around the film uh, unfolds. And sometimes that helps you to rethink of something, or even reaffirm your own opinion. It works in very different ways. So when a film like Animal does so well, you also try to understand, what did I miss, or what is the society we are living in. There are a lot of questions that come up. So yeah, I don't know, it just didn't work for me, and there's nothing from the film I remember. I want to tell you, I remember nothing from the
Performances?
film.
Can we talk about performances? Ranveer Kapoor.
Yeah, Ranveer is very good, but I mean, he's very, very good, but he also hasn't really given a bad performance, if you think about it. Like, he is one of the finest actors we have, so he's very good. Yeah,
Other
but
than
then
that,
that,
nothing holds up. For sure.
no, nothing. I mean, it just felt like a very it felt like a very male fantasy, in a sense that, like, it's a very customized playground he has made for his straight bros, where if you see that there is no intervention, in the sense that here is a man who obviously has father issues, and okay, fine, he has father issues, and then he goes about killing everyone, rampaging and everything. And there is no semblance of a law and order. If you see, like, there is no one who is stopping him, because this is the filmmaker appealing to the majority population, which is the heterosexual, man, right, who doesn't probably feel very empowered, or doesn't probably feel too represented. So this is what he has shown, that this is what you can be, the idea of alpha male or whatever. Like, it's a little silly, the way uh, he at the very beginning, he talks about how people, men who write poems are basically lesser man, and those who go and hunt and whatever, and they are, the so it's a little silly, because you almost feel that this is reactive filmmaking, right? Like, he is justifying, and I felt the whole film was reactive, and that is why it didn't work for me. Like, like, after, I think, Kabir Singh came, and everyone had problems with it, and he obviously spoke about it and everything, and he kept saying, if you watch his interviews, and that clip was all over Instagram, where he's like, if you want to see a violent film, I'll show you a violent film. So I feel like this was a bait. Like, he was like, okay, you got scared with that, I will show you worse. You that Kabir Singh disturbed you, let me show you what can disturb you. So it felt like he was baiting you, which is, it's like very childish behavior. Because your whole, like, just how criticism cannot be reactive, like, my criticism cannot be, someone said this, so I'm saying this, just like that. Even filmmaking cannot be reactive, you know and if, in many different ways, reactive filmmaking tend to be worse, because, I'll give you an example. Like, if you consider Anurag Kashyap's recent films, and they're very, very reactive. Like, I haven't watched Kennedy. If you watch his previous film, the Pyar,
Yes, yes.
PJ
Alaya,
Mohabbat something,
Alaya.
yeah, Alaya F, yeah, that film, and it's barely a film. It's like an op-ed. And you understand it's reactive. You understand that his anger took precedence over reason. He wanted to show what he feels and what he thinks. So I feel reactive filmmaking in any spectrum of politics, it can be left, right, or any way, does not translate to good filmmaking. I mean, this is my opinion, because you see, someone like Hansal Mehta, who really reins it in. Like, if you watch Faraz, which, there's a small film he made recently last year, and it's not that it's an apolitical film. It's a very much political film, but he reins it in the narrative. It never takes precedence over, like, at no point does it feel like the filmmaker is shouting his opinion on you. You know. So yeah. So that's Animal. How did you? What are your opinions on
Like,
Animal? I want
I'll
to know.
tell you. I've seen a
Okay.
review which says losers gonna watch this film and will say hell yeah. That was my reaction. I didn't like it. Like, it was for 1 hour. It was like fine. Then it got long. It was really long.
And it was so long. Like, it was so indulgent at so many levels. Yeah, it was so long. I think it was 3.5 hours or something. Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on Indian critics? We are not talking about YouTubers right now, but your contemporaries.
My thoughts are that I feel like those who write at this moment, I feel a lot of good writing is happening in Indian criticism, which was not, and I would go out on a limb and say, which was not happening when I was growing up. Because I feel like, a lot, I think, with the digital intervention, with more people getting to write, see, the one casualty would be that there are too many opinions. There are too many people writing on things, and which obviously does also mean that not everything is worth reading. But I feel that the quality of writing on films has vastly improved in the last couple of years. I know a lot of people, who really treat criticism beyond the many stars that they have to give to a film, which is very attractive. Because I I read, when after you're done, and you read other pieces, and I genuinely feel that a lot of good work is being done. When I was growing up, when I was in college, there was a certain template to film criticism. There was a
More about business.
Yeah, that and also even those who were not looking at the financial aspect of it, even then them, they had a template, like, this was a synopsis, this is the acting, and this is, there are almost 3-4 paragraphs. You knew this was the template, and it never probed you to think harder. Because, and I think this what writing is happening right now is probing you to think harder. It's also a lot of factors work. See, one is that, when you write for a newspaper, which obviously more people would when I was growing up, then you are curtailed by words, you but here I think the fact that you can write, you can give vent to your writing, you can go to 1,000 words or 1,200 words. So the difference between, like, a lot of criticism are fascinating essays at this point in time, which really I think it's a good time, I will not say. And it's a tough time because your profession hinges on a job. If you lose your job, you are no longer a film critic, because it's really difficult. But it's a good time in the sense that the writing, the quality, I think, is pretty good.
Anyone you admire?
See, I like a lot of my contemporaries. I mean, not contemporaries. I'm a little younger. I want to specify, but I do like a lot of my contemporaries. For example, like Uday Bhatia, who writes for Lounge, Mint Lounge. I mean, he's really good, and the best part about him is that, it's so crisp. Like, within 750 words, he would just write it, and it's impossible for me. I can't do it. Like, if I like something or dislike, you tend to go overboard. Like, you tend to, because you can. But I think his training, his discipline is such that, he really can. Like, brevity is really his game. Like, he can really distill his opinion. And there's Rahul Desai, who's so good, and just like he's just very, and also he's very prolific, I think, which is really admirable, because, he writes on everything. Like, he will write on a short film, he'll write on a web show, he will write on a film. So it's very prolific. And, like, I think one of the what like, this is the first second year basically where I'm really doing full-time film criticism, because I used to do full-time jobs, and I'm a freelancer, so that helps me only to write things I want to write on. And you realize that, the difficulty in the long run is not so much as film criticism. It is to maintain the quality of your criticism, to write those many pieces every week, and maintain a quality, so that when someone reads it, they don't realize that you wrote it in 2 hours. Because sometimes you have to write it in 2 hours. If you're watching a morning Friday show, you have to write. But I think with Rahul's pieces, you can never know. And I find that fascinating. Like, you can never know if he has written this in a crunch of time. It's a Friday review or a Wednesday review. Like, I think the quality is just like, it's pretty astounding. And among my, I mean, the other people I like, I think,
Elder.
elder. No, these are the two elder people I like. Other than that, I feel like among my age group, a little younger than me actually, there is someone called Pratush who writes for Film Companion. He's very good. I feel like he's very prolific also, and he has a very different take on writing, in the sense that, I like the way he looks at things, which is very different from the way I do. But there's a lot to learn. There's someone called Gail, also for Film Companion, and she's also very, very good. As I was saying, like, you have younger voices talking about different aspects of films. Yeah, so I think among the working film critics, these are my favorites. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on YouTubers who does film critic?
See, I was like a little, I mean, I don't know, like a little stuck up, in the sense that, I mean, I don't know. See, you cannot be a gatekeeper, right? And I don't want to be one, and I am not one. I feel like there should be different ways of of you can choose your medium to make your point across, right? And that's fine. I recently had to did a video for some work, and I realized that it's not easy, because when you are writing, you feel like, video, it can't be that tough. It's tough because, like, I was sweating, and I'm like, I'm forgetting everything. I don't remember. So it's a different art form altogether, and I have no training for it. I don't have ambition as such for it, because I don't think I'm very good in camera. Like, I would rather write. But yeah, I think it's a. I mean, it's a good vertical. as long as people use it for what it is supposed to. I mean, if you're talking about film critics, then it should be like, for example, Sucharita. uh, like she's a dear friend of mine, and the craft that she brings to film criticism over video, where it's entertaining, where she draws you in, she gives you anecdotes, and yet she makes an opinion on the film. That's an art form. You have to write it like that. You can't write it like we write. Sentences cannot be long and winding. You have to make it snappy. So I have a lot of respect, if that's what you're asking. I mean, it's not somewhere I see myself, but I totally get the work that requires.
Have you ever thought about directing or writing a film?
Writing, yes. Directing, I don't know. But I mean, I have a ambition of writing a book or a film or anything like something in writing. But direction, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
There might be few films, few reviews which you thought you might got wrong, like your opinion on few films.
I mean, I will literally not say that. I mean, I will not reveal it.
No, you can say.
No, see, it's not about being wrong, because I'll tell you what happens. That, as I told you in the beginning, that when you are writing something, the thing is that you are not writing a review which says I don't like it. You are also giving reasons. So when I am getting giving reasons of liking or disliking, somewhere I'm convinced now. That's why I'm giving. Like, it's a criticism is also persuasive. Like, I think the best criticism is film criticisms, or any book criticism also, is like when you have a different opinion and you read a contrarian opinion. You might not agree with that person, but you see it. I think that's the finest form of criticism for me. Like, when I might not agree with something, like if I've written an opinion, okay, and someone else has written, for example, if suppose Uday, has written a review which I don't agree with him liking or disliking it, but I agree with the way he has written it. Like, I see his point. So that has happened couple of times, but I don't think there has. I mean, see, I'll tell you recently what happened was that last year, my opinion remains the same. I feel I was a little harsh, and that was Vishal Bhardwaj's Khufia. I didn't like it at all. So what happened is I realized that while writing it, I didn't give the film a chance. Like, I think I was very convinced that I didn't like it. Right. So I think later on I keep thinking about the film and I feel maybe it was not that bad. Like, I get what went wrong and I stand by my opinion, but I think the degree should have varied a little. So yeah.
Like, yeah, if people doesn't agree with your review and if they will troll you, like, does it matter to you?
No, no. I mean, they troll me a lot on social media. What happened? I mean, it doesn't, because then what to do now? Like, I don't know what do you do? And I feel like it's a shorthand. They see a woman and they call her auntie. That's the shorthand they use all the time. And like the most trolled, I think obviously it was Animal, and I remember even Tu Jhuti Main Makka. You see a certain kind, right? Like, when like when you talk about a film which you didn't like, then obviously, and a certain kind of film, so obviously the fans of that film throng. It's fine. I mean, I if it gets too much, I block them, but I don't interact at all.
Do Indian actors or filmmakers care about criticism or critics?
I don't know. I mean, they would probably know if they do, but I feel like I'm not saying that they should, but I feel like criticism in any society is really important, because I think what people don't get is that people feel like film critics are people who just come to criticize, and it's not true. I mean, it's the farthest from the truth. I cannot tell you how much I enjoy watching films. Like, I cannot stress it enough. Every like the thing is that my job is to watch films, and in my off time I also watch films. So like, if I'm cooling down, I watch something, and if I'm working, I also watch something. So I think people who write on films, they really love the medium. They really love storytelling. Like, every Thursday, Friday, when I go and sit in the theater, I am always interested, intrigued, and inherently happy to know this story that so I think when you don't like something, what happens is that it's just disappointment. that the medium was not used the way it could have, because it can be used so well. So I think that, so I feel like criticism really helps art. It's not an opposition to art, it's a companion to art in any art form. So I feel like, if today, like, just how when I write a piece and if my editor tells me that this is where you can do better, instead of fighting it, I should be able to take the criticism if I know it's constructive criticism, if it's coming from a good place. It's not criticizing me just for the sake of it. So I that's my feelings about it. I feel like, when you write about, when you write about, or you um, like, you dissect a film and you are like, this is what went wrong. At least I try to say that this is what could have happened. I'm not saying this is what should have happened, but could have happened. And I feel like I am also partaking in the conversation that the filmmaker has started. Right? They are telling one part, and I'm saying, maybe this also could have been a more compelling detour or something like that, which I feel like it's not pulling anyone down. So honestly, I feel like they should care, in the sense that they should know. I mean, generally I see a lot of interviews where actors are like, we don't care and all that. But the funnily the thing is that when they do get good reviews, or when filmmakers do get good reviews, they will put that thing up on their poster. They will use those two words which you have liked. So it's a it's a very contentious relationship. Like, I feel like they like it when they get good reviews, and when they don't, they probably just dismiss it and saying, we don't care. Because, I mean, someone like Sandeep Banga, who has earned so much money, is still complaining of the fact that critics don't like his film. You don't need to care. Your film has earned enough money. Go move on. But he is still going back in every interview. He's like, they didn't like my film. Then why do you care?
Has somebody
So,
paid you like for a good review?
no, I want to say on your platform that film criticism, as just how it's a very fragile job. As I said, that your profession depends on your job. If you don't have a job, you might not be a film critic in India, right? Similarly, it's a very underpaid job. Okay, I mean, it people might think otherwise, but we are really not paid that much. And it takes a lot of effort to write every day, to think about things. And I'm not complaining, this is something I always wanted to do. I love my job, but it's a very underpaid job. And as of now, no one has ever paid me. Sometimes we have to follow up for a piece we have written. Forget about someone paying me for to write a good review. That hasn't happened, but that doesn't mean that I will take it. I will not. I'm just saying that uh, it hasn't happened for me, at least.
Oscars are coming, so are you excited about it?
What
Has
is coming?
Oscars?
Yeah, I'm very. It's just like become a little boring, I feel like now. So I'm excited in the sense that I like to have my own. Sorry. So what happens is that with Oscars or for any award, I think because you keep watching them throughout the year now, and you keep talking about it, so you have your picks. Like, I want this film to win. If it wins, great. Like, remember the year Parasite won, we were all so happy because we were all rooting for a film like that, or even everything everywhere all at once. So that only, I think, it's just that a validation
What's your
of what
pick
you
this year?
thought. It's just started, so I don't know. But no, sorry, I know what you mean. It's not the ones which are there, right? So for I really, really, really liked Past Lives, and this is the film I was forgetting about when I was telling you the films I liked. I loved Past Lives, loved it, and I really hope it wins. Uh, so yeah, that and like
Killers? Did you like Killers of the Flower?
yeah, I really liked Killers. I mean, more than liking the film, I was so moved by this filmmaker, who's like in his 80s, and he's still making films, and he's telling and sweeping films. These are like, it's a mammoth, so I find that very moving. So yeah, Killers I liked, Past Lives I liked, Oppenheimer I liked very much. So I'm pretty sure probably Killian Murphy will win, and maybe Nolan will finally get that Oscar.
He will
So
win. He is sweeping all the awards.
yeah, so and
The zone of interest.
Zone of Interest I like very much. Actually, I like Zone of Interest a lot, and it's very interesting because Sandra Huller will probably be in contest of Best Actress for Anatomy of a Fall and supporting actress for Zone of Interest, which is very interesting. Zone of Interest was very good. It's also a very short film. It's like 1 hour 20 30 minutes something, and it's so impactful. And Anatomy, I loved Anatomy. Loved it. Also, I loved Korida's Monster. Beautiful, beautiful film. Beautiful film. Yeah, again, a filmmaker moving on with time, telling a story in different ways. Have you watched Monster?
No. No.
Oh, you should watch. Like, just the narrative design of the film is just beautiful. Like from three perspectives, he tells the same story, and it all comes together. Like, when you're watching the first half, you're like, okay, this is the film, and then another perspective shift happens, and you're like, okay, so this is the film. And then by the time the third perspective happens, everything comes, ties together, and you realize, oh shit, this was the film. Where were we looking? I find that fascinating. Like, so yeah, I
Rashomon
hope.
effect.
Huh?
Rashomon effect.
Yeah, in yes, Rashomon effect, that way. So yeah, but Rashomon, in the sense, it's not that it doesn't talk about the subjectivity of the truth in a way as Rashomon did. It's not like that. It's saying one story from three perspectives. It's the same story. You know what has happened, but what happens is that you also look at different facets of the same narrative. It's a little bit like little spoiler alert. It's a little bit like Don's close. But the way he does it is just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So, yeah.
Poor things.
I haven't watched Poor Things. It's not released. It's not released here. I haven't watched it, but I love the filmmaker. I love everything he has made. Like Lobster, one of my most favorite films, for which Olivia Colman got the Oscar. Favorite. I love favorite. So yeah. So
So, if someone wants to become a film critic, what advice would you give?
I would just say that something I follow. You have to be very patient, and you have to have a lot of tenacity, because a lot of people can write, but what makes you a critic is not writing one review, is writing every week, and also sometimes finding ways to say the same things differently. That is, if you ask me today, that is the toughest job of film criticism, is when you watch 2 3 films and oh shit, I know, matlab, I've written about this last week. It's the same thing, but you can't repeat yourself, so you have to find different ways to say it. You have to phrase things differently, argue differently. So yeah, I think it would be tenacity, patience, and just a little bit of honesty. I mean, it's a little overused, but yeah, to be honest to what you're doing. So yeah.
In 2024, the film will be released that you are most excited for.
What are the films coming this year?
I also don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know actually. If you ask me,
Dune. Dune Part 2.
Dune I really like. Yeah, I was just watching the trailer and I was thinking that insane ambition. So yeah, Dune 2 maybe. I don't know. I don't. I'm Yeah, I don't know. Also, the filmmakers I liked a lot. I just remembered. I remember two things. One is that filmmakers I liked, and one would be Damien Chazelle. I feel I want to say that he also, just as I said that no two films by Shujit Sharkar, they are similar. Same for him. I feel he is just fascinating as a filmmaker, as a storyteller. The gumption of his, he made a La La Land and followed it up with First Man. I mean, they're just so different. And then he made Babylon. So I find his vision very fascinating. Like, I can watch anything Damien Chazelle makes. And an Indian show I just remembered which worked for me this year was, I was telling you now, Trial by Fire and all that. So I think also Farzi worked for me a lot. I just remembered, I was forgetting something. I think Raj and DK, they have just transformed the digital storytelling. The way they say stories, it has almost become a template now. The little quirks that they introduce, the characters they have. So I think Farsi, like Setupati was just so good. Like, I can watch him in anything, but he was just so
Guns and
good.
Blood. Did you like Guns and Blood?
I did. I mean, I didn't mind it. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it has one of my most favorite moments of the show. Have you watched it? Yeah, so I'll tell you which moment. I love to say it, talk about it. So, that moment when Rajkumara gets the student and he's writing the letter on the field, and suddenly Brian Adams, everything I do for you starts playing. It is such a random, beautiful moment. It comes out of nowhere, and everyone is just looking. And the song is just, and it's just so good. Like, it's also from that time. The song holds special feel, for people who were dating at that time. I love that scene. Like, I love that scene. To write that scene, and to put it convincingly is something. You How do you think of something like this? That Brian Adams song plays and everyone is looking in the air. It's just, that lovely scene. So yeah.
On that note, Ishita, thank you so much for joining. It was lovely
Thank
talking to
you.
you.
Thank you for having me. And I really hope that you become a filmmaker soon,
Thank you so much.
and that we watch what you want to make.
Sorry?
I'll be very interested. That we will watch what you are making. I'll be very interested.
Yes, yes, for sure. Thank you, Ishita.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye bye.